Everyone. I hope you like the video I uploaded yesterday with respect to the Supreme Court order of 23rd March. Today, what I'm going to take up is another important topic, which, if you remember, we had talked of is the internal financial control reporting responsibilities on the branch auditors. So generally, all the videos I'll be uploading would generally be applicable to the branch auditors, as I would not be dealing with issues these statutory central auditors come up with. Now, I'll share the presentation, and so that we can start. Now, so my topic, as it was yesterday, would be, the impact of the changes which are happening, which have happened during 2021. So then the second change which I've identified is the responsibilities given by the RBI to the statutory central auditors and the bank branch auditors for the audit of internal financial control. Before I start my presentation, I need to clarify that the views I express during the course of the video are my personal views, and please do not construe it as either professional advice or views of either the ICAI or my firm where I'm a partner. Now, let's first look at the background of the audit of the IFC, which came out last year. This actually, the Reserve Bank of India on the 17th of March 2020 issued a communication to the all the public sector banks, stating that the statutory central auditors had to, they gave them certain responsibilities, which included reporting on the internal financial control of the bank. Now, last year being a COVID year, obviously it was not, it was something which both the banks, the bank management as well as the statutory central auditors were totally unprepared for. So obviously there was, the RBI was approached and informed that the reporting on the IFC could not happen in such a short time, and especially at a time when the statutory central auditors and the branch auditors were not in a position to visit the branches. So somewhere in May 2020, the Reserve Bank again clarified that this reporting responsibility of the statutory central auditors from mandatory, it was opined that if the banks opted for it or these statutory central auditors opted for it, you could report on the IFC. And very logically and as expected, none of the banks opted for reporting on the IFC during the financial year ending 31st March 2020. Further, in May 2020, if you remember, it happened when the reporting requirement of the internal financial control came out in the Companies Act 2013. The Reserve Bank here again clarified that the IFC reporting would be with respect to the financial statements, the IFCoFR, and not on the internal financial controls per se. So obviously, if auditors were to report on the internal financial controls of the bank as a whole, not restricting itself to the financial statements, it would have amounted to something beyond our scope, and also maybe one would take a lot of time in doing it, and whether or not we would be capable, that also was a question. Now, for the audit of IFC, let me clarify that the Reserve Bank of India, except for the communications to the public sector banks, and also in March and May 20, it did not issue a circular or a notification as such. And the only guidance which is available to us, either as branch auditors or the statutory central auditors, is a very recent technical guide which the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India issued. That is the technical guide on the audit of IFC in case of public sector banks. Now, this the technical guide if you read it, it clearly says that the technical guide on audit of IFC for public sector banks has to be read in conjunction with the guidance note on the audit of IFC or IFCoFR, which was, earlier issued for the companies where IFC reporting was eligible, or because not all companies one needs to report on the IFC. And of course, the technical guide also says that except for these subjects which are very specific to public sector banks or banks, the guidance with respect to the design of control and testing the effectiveness of the controls has to be looked upon from the guidance note on audit of IFC. So to summarize, for any guidance one needs to report on at the branch level for the audit of IFC, one has to look at the technical guide and possibly guidance note. But based on a reading, one could conclude that with respect to the branch audits, I think the technical guide on audit of IFC issued on 19th March 2021 should suffice. Now, before we get on to the responsibilities or what exactly as branch auditors we would require to do, let's also look at what the technical guide talks of as to whose responsibility is it for the audit of IFCs in public sector banks. Now here it is the responsibility which came out on the 27th March communication of the Reserve Bank. It clearly said that the statutory central auditors of the bank are required to report. There were two aspects to it. One, whether the bank has adequate IFC with reference to the financial statements, and whether such controls were operating effectively as at the balance sheet date. So this was primarily, the SCA's responsibility, where the SCA in the technical guide is that the applicability of reporting on the internal financial control is restricted to the financial statements, and it does not extend to the certificates which we as the branch auditors sign and attest during the course of the branch audits. Now again, for the statutory branch auditors, what is the scope, responsibility and the audit procedures which one would take to? Now here at branches, I think all of you would be aware that the design of control would be required to be tested, since these statutory central auditors would test the design and implementation centrally. I mean, obviously, because the design aspect of all the controls which are embedded in the core banking solution at the bank would be designed at the central office level. But obviously, the testing part which would happen has to be at the branch level, because all transactions initiate from the in the bottom-up approach. That is, the transactions based on the controls designed at the central office level would actually get initiated at the branch level, and that is where the testing of the internal financial controls would be required at the branch level. And that is the reason why the technical guide clearly spells out that the reporting requirement on the internal financial control would also be applicable to the branch auditor with respect to obviously the financial statements. Now, one aspect which has been clarified in the technical guide is, it is not that all the branches which are chosen for the branch audits based on the conditions which the Reserve Bank has spelled out. Not all branches would be required to report on the IFCoFR. So since controls are designed centrally at the branch level, so that testing process would be done by the statutory central auditors, and the branch auditors would only be required to test controls and to carry out audit procedures as would be spelled out by the statutory central auditors. So effectively, what's going to happen is, let's say there's a total pool of 3,000 branches in a particular bank which need to be audited, and the SCAs, based on various conditions which the technical guide actually spells out, like which are the branches where the risk profile of the branch has gone from good to unsatisfactory or bad, and various, there are 5 to 6 conditions. So based on that, the statutory central auditors at the head office level would need to select branches which would be required to report on the IFCoFR. And of course, how the branch auditors would report is something we will discuss during the next few slides. So what should us as branch auditors expect from the SCAs? Now, obviously, now let's say there's a branch auditor who gets a semi-urban or an urban or a semi-rural branch where he's been asked to report on the IFC. Now, that's a very difficult ask for any branch auditors to carry out a check of the internal financial control based on the risk control matrix at a branch where he is expected not only to carry out other checks in a limited span of time, but also this year we have the responsibility of reporting on all the revised paras of the LFAR 2020, which has increased the entire scope, and also the would definitely require an additional resource once we do it. So coming back to the reporting on the IFC, here the specific branches required to be reporting on the IFCoFR will at the head office level be accordingly determined, selected, and scoped in by the statutory central auditors. So maybe the SCA scope in out of a population of 3,000 branches, maybe 200 to 300 branches where they wish they would advise the branch auditor that you need to carry out the testing of the internal financial controls as designed at the central office level, at the branch level. Now here the statutory central auditors, as per the technical guide, are also required to send referral instructions to these branch auditors where they are scoped in for IFCoFR reporting. Primarily, all the terms and conditions, all the instructions, all the guidance with respect to IFCoFR testing would be required to be issued by the statutory central auditors to the specific branch auditor who has been scoped in for carrying out the IFC testing. Now, the statutory central auditors, now here, whatever I have quoted is kind of a summary of the technical guide on the IFC reporting issued by the ICI on 19 March. So maybe, I would expect that before you start the branch, please do thoroughly read the technical guide, at least to the, to the extent it relates to the branch auditors. Now here, what the technical guide lists out that the statutory central auditors should also inform the branch auditors that what are the results of the testing of controls which happened at the head office level. Like the statutory central auditors would already be testing the controls once they got the risk control matrix from the branch management. Now, the relevant portions of the risk control matrix, which I think, for those of us who are aware what risk control matrix are, having done it in respect of companies, but for those members who have not carried out an IFC of any company based on risk control matrix, just to, update you, they list out controls, process controls of different verticals of the company, and so basically a simple process like the cash at in a company or a bank would probably have 30 to 40 process controls which would need to be tested obviously by the branch auditor or the central auditor at the head office level. Now these would have the corresponding software support in the CBS. Like, all the controls would lie embedded in the core banking solution which the bank is using. So the what the branch auditor would expect from the statutory central auditor is the relevant portion of the risk control matrix would need to be shared by the SCAs for testing the operating effectiveness. And also this risk control matrix, which would come to me along with my appointment letter in case my branch is scoped in for the IFC testing. There would also be detailed instructions with respect to control testing of the RCMs from the SCA to the SBS. So, obviously that means what I expect is, obviously having not seen the RCMs, this being the first year, what I expect is, obviously, it would show which vertical are we talking of, then what is the control we are talking of, and number 3, what is the procedure I need to carry out, which would be outlined by the SCA for testing the controls which the are expected to send detailed instructions to the SBAs for testing those. So primarily this is because it is something the control at the branch level would happen across India and would be carried out by a number of firms. So these common guidelines would help carry out, would help a uniform approach of the control testing process. And now the branch auditor's responsibilities and the audit procedures primarily would, if you see the first bullet, the risk control matrix relevant to PSBs. Now, this is what the technical guide talks of. Mostly the controls, one could go back to the appendix 4 of the guidance note on IFCoFR for most of the controls. But when it comes to the public sector banks, internal financial controls, there's an appendix 5 to the technical guide on IFC issued on the 19th March. And this relates to all the advances, deposits, derivatives, investment, borrowings, and lendings. So primarily everything relating to the banking services. Now, another thing which the technical guide lists out is that the branch auditors would be required to not only test the operating effectiveness of the IFCoFR based on the sample size as determined and communicated by the SCAs as shared with them. What I would get is the detailed instructions, the referral instructions, the relevant portion of the risk control matrix, the audit procedure therein, and third, most importantly, it is also expected that the sample size of each control testing which I need to do is to be communicated by the statutory central auditors to the branch auditors. So when I get the RCM, I would get the relevant portion where I'm expected to carry out audit procedures, testing procedures. I would get the guidance therein. I would also get the sample size. So let's say they're talking of, application of interest, whether there is a management override, they could probably say that, okay, in respect of cash credit account, do a sample size of 10, do a sample size of 20 in this, do a sample size of 15 in respect of deposits, etc. I mean, those are things which, once you get those instructions from the statutory central auditors, you would, but primarily to summarize that, as branch auditors, we would get detailed instructions, a clear risk control matrix with audit procedures, and also the sample size wherein we have to carry out the testing process. Now, what are the scope, responsibilities, and the audit procedures again here? Now, one new documentation which we as branch auditors would be required to carry out is, other than the engagement letter we exchange with the branch management for the audit of the financial statements and other certifications, etc., there is an appendix 3 to the technical guide which talks of the engagement letter which needs to be exchanged with the branch management for carrying out the audit of the IFC. Now here, if you see this appendix 3, it has been, a copy has been marked to the audit committee, and it is expected that it is signed by the branch management also. So primarily the branch manager, whoever is the branch manager, be it the AGM, DGM, GM, or chief manager, or whatever level in the banking hierarchy. So the engagement letter you need to document would be as per Appendix 3. Now, there are two situations which would happen in any bank. You may get 3 branch audits, let's say, and maybe you are scoped in for reporting or you're scoped in for the audit of IFCoFR only in respect of 1 branch. So in this case, what will happen is that you would be expected to report as per 2 formats. The technical guide in Appendix 6 has listed out 2 reports. One, 6A, which is when your branch is not scoped in for the audit of IFCoFR. So with respect to the 2 branches where your branch has not been scoped in for the audit of IFCoFR, you'll have to issue the audit report as per Annexure 6A. And when it with respect to the branch where you have carried out an exercise as per the referral instructions and the guidance of the statutory central auditors, since your branch was scoped in, then you would issue the report of as per Annexure 6B. Now here, of course, there is further guidance in that with respect to when there is a modified opinion, etc. So I would request viewers to read through the technical guide and also the Appendix 6, where both the illustrative audit reports have been given. So what we need to sign off in respect of the IFC would be the engagement letter and the either of the reports, depending on whether or not we have our branch has been scoped in for the audit of IFCoFR. Also, please remember to document all the audit procedures you carried out, and when you sign off the risk control matrix, you document the risk control matrix. So whenever you are complying with the requirements of the statutory central auditors, please do make a list and document all the samples you selected, and generally try and import that and do it on a random basis instead of giving it a personal bias and selecting, let's say 10 samples as given by the SCA. So do it on the Excel and probably carry out a random selection of that. So that was about what the technical guide on the audit of IFC said. Another, I think, important aspect which comes out of this new responsibility which the branch auditors have got this time is, this year we have the revised LFR 2020 and the new audit report on the audit of IFC IFCoFR. Earlier, as branch auditors, we were reporting, we were issuing only one audit report as per, the SA 700, 705, 706, or maybe, also supported by the guidance note on audit of banks. So this year, one would have 3 audit reports. Of course, the LFR was also there earlier. My only advice to all the members is that, please, before you issue the reports on either of them, whether you are, signing off the LFR 2020 for the year end March 21, or signing off the audit report, or the audit report for audit of IFCoFR, first list out what are the issues which you have come up with. Now, let's say there are no issues, then obviously, that'll be the easiest scenario where you would probably be giving clean reports in all the 3 cases. But in case there are issues you noticed in the audit during the LFR reporting, or the normal financial statements reporting, or also the IFC reporting. Now, either of them, one issue, you need to map and see whether there is a corresponding reporting requirement in the other report. So I should not be reporting in the negative or giving a modified opinion in my audit of financial statements, which probably also has come up from the reporting on the LFR and also has repercussion in the audit of the IFCoFR. So to summarize, And then basically, one needs to be very clear about, what report, what modification one is doing. And even in the LFR, if I'm giving something negative, one needs to see whether there is a corresponding reporting responsibility in either of the other two reports. So if you see, the new audit LFR 2020, it has a requirement of reporting whether or not, there are any transactions which are beyond the delegated authority. So to give you an example, I should not be reporting that, yes, there were 3 cases where the transactions were beyond the branch management's delegated power. And in the main audit report of SA 705 or 700, whichever you're issuing, there I say that, all the transactions which have come to our notice have been within the powers of the bank stroke branch. So primarily, what you need to do as branch auditor is to synchronize all the issues and avoid contradictions amongst the 3 reports you issue. So friends, I think, that's about all with respect to the audit of the IFC. Please do get in touch with me in case you feel that, there are any issues which you feel should have been touched upon. You can write to me. And during the audit of the branch, in case you feel you need some clarification, feel free to write to me on my email. And in case required, probably, I would call you back so to clarify whatever to the best possible extent. WhatsApp, I generally may not be, quick in replying. So I think, the best option would be to send me an email, and then, we can take that issue forward. Thanks a lot for watching this. And I do hope you like this, because, this is the second of the video I'll be uploading for the benefit of all of you. And, I plan to take up now, post this, a few important Reserve Bank of India circulars, including the resolution of stress assets, which came out through the RBI circular of 6th August 2020. And post that, I would also take up the Reserve Bank, the LFR 2020, because it has come out with a number of revised paras. Okay, friends, see you, bye-bye, and stay safe. Thank you.